we'll get on to you as a county councillor now, and could you just take us through a little bit of what you do on a daily basis as a county councillor? Because I know it's quite a mystery. People just think they come out with blurbs and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and just deal with rubbish complaints all the time. Really, that it's not been picked up or anything.
Well,
But
sometimes you do, yeah.
yeah, well, I understand a lot of times at the moment with COVID and everything, it's not the waste department's fault, it's not Cllr's fault. They have to abide by the rules, and if people test positive COVID, they're going to have to self-isolate, or if they've been near somebody with COVID, they're going to have to self-isolate at the moment. So it does stretch departments a bit thinner at the moment, and there's a lot of patients in the county. I agree with that, and it's good to remind that your rubbish hasn't been picked up. But
Yeah.
don't.
Well, shall I just outline what the sort of role of a county councillor is? Would that
Yep,
be helpful?
yep, and
Yeah. So essentially, there is a little bit of a misunderstanding amongst the public that sometimes we are seen as advocates for the county council. Now, I'm always keen to stress when I'm speaking to the public, like for example in public meetings which I've recently held about the local development plan, etc., that we are not spokespeople for the county borough council. In fact, it's the reverse. We are spokespeople for you, the residents. So we try to represent our constituents' interests to the best of our ability. We make referrals in writing to BCBC officers on a whole range of issues, from, as you say, waste collection, potholes. It's a whole range of services that BCBC deal with, from social services issues, one of which I dealt with yesterday, educational issues, housing, a whole lot more. I could go on with the areas which BCBC cover. But beyond that, we also have a role then in sitting on a wide variety of committees. So we don't just sit at home waiting for a phone call or an email or a Facebook message from constituents complaining about their pothole or waste collection. We sit on a variety of scrutiny committees. There are three in Bridgend, three main ones anyway. There's also another one which deals with corporate issues, but three main ones. One which mainly deals with education, one which mainly deals with social services, and then the other which deals with communities issues, which are probably the most visible things which everyone sees in their community. So we examine different policies, we question cabinet members, and then other than that, there are some quasi-judicial committees, such as licensing, so they deal with perhaps taxi licenses or pub licenses, etc., and planning, of course, planning for development, and housing, and then there's also the audit committee, which deals with corporate affairs, risk, and financial affairs as well. So, as I said, all of this is based on political balance. Roughly half, I suppose, it's almost half, are Labour Party members, because they are the minority administration. I think they've got 25 out of 54 councillors, so they occupy almost half the seats in all of these committees. Yeah. And then the other committees are basically distributed on political balance. And over my time as a county councillor, as I mentioned, I think earlier on, I've chaired the education committee, I've chaired the audit committee as well, and now I'm leader of the largest opposition group.
That's great. So I know people think, and even before I got into being a community councillor, that people think that councillors just sit, wait around, like you said. But how many hours a week do you put into the work you do at the council, helping residents, going out and even just meeting people? Do you have a number of
so I suppose this varies. It depends how visible and varies per councillor, to be honest with you. Those people who are perhaps most active, I won't name them on camera, but everyone knows perhaps who they are on the council. In every single group, there are more people who are more active than others. So the time spent varies per councillor. I hope people in my area think that I'm quite proactive in putting myself out there on social media and in the community. So as a result, you sort of tend to generate your own workload.
Yeah.
So, you know, meeting constituents and actively seeking out work is bound to result in more work. I would say I probably do more work now because I'm leader of the opposition and have to attend more meetings. But I would say perhaps 2 to 3 hours a day. It's not considered a professional job, and I think some constituents and some residents out there probably think that this is my professional, this is my job. Now, it isn't my job. It's something which it is, you know, at county level, it is remunerated, whereas obviously town and community council largely isn't. I think nowadays you perhaps get a small stipend as it every year if you wish to take it at town and community council level. But county council, I guess, I think just over £13,000 per annum. So it's not considered a full-time role. It's considered a part-time, largely voluntary role. And then if you get a senior salary, such as myself as leader of the opposition or a scrutiny chair, then they will get additional information to cover the extra workload. But it's not considered as a full-time job.
That's great. Next we have another question from a member of the public. And this is going to be a good one. What do you like, hate and loathe about being a councillor?
Well, obviously, I think the vast majority of my colleagues and I would say that the reason why we go into the job is to give something back to the community which you love and live in and have probably been born and bred in. So what I enjoy about it is that we are able to make a difference to members of the public, and that's very clear, because clearly the role of council is to facilitate results on behalf of the public. That's, you know, very, very important, and it's very rewarding then when you do actually get results, you know, and actually make a difference for families. You know, some families are, you know, absolutely delighted when they get, especially in, you know, in areas such as social services and education. You know, people don't, you know, sort of cry in the middle of the street when their pothole is fixed, but they certainly do when, you know, you solve their housing needs or social services or educational needs. So yeah, that's what I love about it, really, is and what is most rewarding. What I hate, hate and loathe, they're similar, I suppose. It's difficult, I suppose. I hate being talked at during meetings, to be honest with you, by officers. It means that we're not really genuinely, we as councillors now, are not really genuinely able to contribute to the meeting. We end up being observers. So, you know, we all receive these sort of packs of papers, which run into the 300 pages before meetings. One example was, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, we had a 5.5-hour meeting to discuss actually the waste collection contract. And then for officers to spend the best part of 2 hours talking through the same papers is absolutely mind-numbing, to be honest with you. And what I've said to the leader and others is that if I were them, save your time. You know, I would say, you've all received the comprehensive briefing in writing. Are there any questions? And, you know, this would allow councillors more time to debate and provide more input. I think I and my fellow leaders of the opposition in all groups are a little bit frustrated that we can't actually have more time to debate the issues which are relevant to the public. And we are merely presented with recommendations which we have to note or to approve or even to vote upon, but very little changes compared to what the recommendations are from the senior officers. So I think generally that's what I loathe about it, is that are we there just to spare parts? Are we there just to nod things through as in the democratic process, or are we actually there to meaningfully contribute our residents' views? So that's something that I would really like to change.
So that's your biggest pet peeve about it, is
yeah, that's my real bug there.
somebody just to rubber stamp things and that's it. So
Well, yeah, that's what I loathe about it. And I don't think we're there. Nobody in my position, my colleagues on all sides would say we want to play a meaningful role here, so let us do it. And you know, I know some colleagues who have said, I don't even bother reading the papers anymore because I know I'm going to be presented with them anyway. No, that's wrong, isn't it? Because you ought to read your packs. There may be things in there which are not necessarily said by the officer. So, you know, if the officer doesn't present it, then it'll give the opportunity for people to read things in detail, make their own notes, and contribute in a meaningful way. So, you know, one example, it wasn't regarding a presentation or a report which was presented, but it was the quarterly debates which have been introduced. I don't know whether anybody watched the first one, but it was on educational issues, you know, and it was a very broad subject. It was post-COVID educational challenges or something like that. Now, I contributed on, I think, Welsh language education, and other colleagues contributed on school capacity issues and special educational needs, etc. You know, there wasn't a meaningful debate. They were just pre-prepared you know, contributions. I don't really want that in a debate. I want, you know, someone intervening on me. I want something meaningful coming from a debate. You know, challenges from across the floor. Let's have something which is more, you know, spicy rather than stilted. But perhaps that's just me.
Well, no, I can see the point. What's the point of people just getting, oh, this is what we're going to do, just rubber stamp it? You get no debate. You don't get even the best outcome in the end because, okay, you've got people in the council that are paid to do the job, and they're paid very well to do their job, and they're experts in the field. But even the simplest person can come up with an idea that somebody else hasn't thought of that may make something better. So unless you have debate, everything's just going to stay the same.
Yeah, and you know, it might be the best option, but let's challenge it. Let's have more time to challenge as well. You know, we've all received the papers, we've all received the recommendations. Thank you very much for putting so much effort into providing us with the papers. But then after that, hand it over to the councillors to challenge that and answer questions. Don't just speak at us for 2 hours. You know, it does really annoy me, and I know it annoys many other colleagues. So that needs to change.
Okay, you've worked on both community and county councils. What are the differences